Welcome to the Insightful Futurist. Another day, another story. Jekyll Island was the location of a secret meeting in 1910, where a group of financiers and economists met to discuss the creation of a centralized banking system in the United States. This meeting is widely considered to be a key moment in the formation of the Federal Reserve. The participants at the Jekyll Island meeting represented some of the most powerful financial institutions in the country, including J.P. Morgan and Company, Kuhn, Loeb and Company, and the First National Bank of New York. The group was led by Senator Nelson Aldrich, who was a key figure in the push for a central bank. During the meeting, the group discussed various proposals for a central bank and eventually developed a plan for what would become the Federal Reserve System. The plan called for a decentralized central bank with the power to regulate the money supply and provide stability to the banking system. The participants at the Jekyll Island meeting kept the proceedings secret, as they were aware that their proposals would face opposition from many segments of society. Despite this secrecy, the meeting is widely considered to be a turning point in the push for a central bank in the United States, and its legacy lives on in the Federal Reserve System, which has become one of the most powerful and influential institutions in the world. The Federal Reserve was established in 1913 in response to the financial panics and bank failures that plagued the U.S. economy in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Here's how and why the Federal Reserve was formed. The U.S. economy was plagued by frequent financial panics and bank failures, causing instability and damaging the economy. The U.S. lacked a central bank to regulate the banking system and provide stability during financial crises. Calls for a central bank increased as the need for a stable banking system became more apparent. Senator Nelson Aldrich proposed a plan for a central bank in the early 20th century, but it was not well received by the public. The Pohl Committee was formed in 1912 to investigate the concentration of power among a small group of banks, known as the Money Trust. The Federal Reserve Act was signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson on December 23, 1913. The Federal Reserve System was established as a decentralized central bank with the power to regulate the money supply and provide stability to the banking system. The Federal Reserve Board was established as the governing body of the Federal Reserve System, with the authority to set monetary policy. 12 Federal Reserve Banks were established across the country, each serving a specific geographic region. The Federal Reserve was charged with maintaining the stability of the financial system and promoting economic growth. It has since become one of the most powerful and influential institutions in the world, playing a key role in the U.S. economy. The Federal Reserve was established to address the financial instability and bank failures that plagued the U.S. economy, and it has played a crucial role in maintaining the stability and prosperity of the country ever since. The 12 regional Federal Reserve Banks are owned by commercial banks in their respective regions. These commercial banks are known as member banks and are required by law to be members of the Federal Reserve System. The member banks own stock in their regional Federal Reserve Bank and elect the directors of these banks. The member banks are typically large, well-established banks, including both national and state-chartered banks. They include some of the largest and best-known financial institutions in the country, such as J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. The profits of the Federal Reserve System are returned to the U.S. Treasury after paying for the expenses of the system. The Bretton Woods Agreement, also known as the Bretton Woods Conference, was a landmark international monetary agreement signed in July 1944 by representatives of 44 allied nations. The agreement was named after the location of the conference, the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. The Bretton Woods Agreement established a new international monetary system after World War II, with the goal of promoting international economic cooperation and reducing the risk of economic instability. The key provisions of the agreement included the creation of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, to promote international monetary cooperation and facilitate the balanced growth of international trade. The creation of the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, now known as the World Bank, to provide financial assistance for the reconstruction and development of war-torn economies. The establishment of the US dollar as the dominant international reserve currency and the anchor of the international monetary system. This is why the Federal Reserve is so powerful. The commitment of participating countries to maintain the stability of exchange rates between their currencies and the US dollar, with the US agreeing to maintain a stable price for gold at $35 per ounce. This was a good way to control money printing until Nixon took the US off of the gold standard because of inflation. The US dollar was officially taken off the gold standard on August 15, 1971. Prior to this, the US dollar was pegged to a specific price of gold, with foreign central banks able to exchange dollars for gold at that fixed price. However, by the late 1960s, the US was facing growing inflationary pressures and a growing trade deficit, and the gold standard was no longer sustainable. The US government was facing increasing pressure to devalue the dollar, which would make US exports more competitive and reduce the trade deficit. In response, President Richard Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard and suspended the convertibility of the dollar into gold for foreign central banks. This allowed the US government to freely adjust the value of the dollar without being restricted by the gold standard. The move to a floating exchange rate system was a major shift in the international monetary system and has since become the dominant monetary system used by countries around the world. The US dollar has since become the world's primary reserve currency and is widely used for international trade and investment. The US national debt was approximately $383 billion before President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard in August 1971. Since President Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard in August 1971, the US national debt has risen significantly. As of February 13, 2023, the national debt stands at approximately $28 trillion. During President Barack Obama's 2 terms in office, the U.S. national debt increased by approximately $9 trillion, from about $10.6 trillion at the end of fiscal year 2008 to about $19.6 trillion at the end of fiscal year 2016. During President Trump's term in office, the national debt increased by $7.6 trillion. Thanks for watching.